Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host, but you also know the co-host. He's here every single week as well. Statistician to the stars, the one and only Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. See, that's how hyped I get. I screw up the intro because I am ready to talk about all things entertainment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have a monster opening segment to get into. So, Pad, we'll just keep it short and sweet. If everybody wants to go after the show, where do they go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Social media links, TeePublic Store link, Patreon link. Shout out to all our amazing patrons. One tier, $2 a month. Blog section, classifieds, the directory. How many providers are we on?
618,583.
That's what I don't question. And I say he is the statistician that stars for the reason. The music section, if it's anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at ODPHpodcast.com. And remember to use the hashtag ODPHpod. Let us waste no more time. This has been one of the most anticipated episodes in all of pop culture. Coming to the small screen on Disney Plus this morning. And man, there's a lot to decipher going down in the season 1 finale of Marvel Animation's X-Men 97. The reboot of the original X-Men, the animated series from 1992 to 1997 that was on Fox, has come back with a thunderous boom, winning over fans left and right, revitalizing a franchise that, quite frankly, was in a little bit of neutral, to be honest with you.
A little stale the last couple of years.
Right. I mean,
had its hits, had its misses. You know, on the television / film side of things, comics obviously a whole different ball of wax. But you know, production, television wise and film wise, hit or miss.
Well, the rise of the MCU and the Avengers franchise really dominating that, and there's a lot of Hollywood reasons, as we'll say. The X-Men have stalled a little bit and really kind of just been in this little state of flux. This series has re-energized an entire franchise. That now, going into the summer with one of the most anticipated movies of the year with Deadpool and Wolverine, there's a lot of momentum for the X-Men. And especially with a new comic line that is coming out, which more announcements are dropping left and right about. There's no better time to get into this franchise, and a lot of it has to do with the hit series that we're going to be talking about and going right into the season finale. There is a lot to decipher with this.
There is.
I can't stress enough. So what we're going to do is what we do every time when we break down a show. First and foremost, thank you for checking us out. If this is the first time on the ODPH, what we like to do is give you a spoiler-free statement of what we're talking about, so we don't ruin anything for you. But we do give you a countdown to let you know when we're going to start talking spoilers. At that moment, you have a choice. You can stay through the show and hear all the spoiler talk, or pause the episode where that countdown is, jump back in after you see the show, and get right into the middle of all that spoiler talk, because we hold nothing back. I have a lot of theories going into where we're heading.
Okay.
So there's going to be a lot to break down. I can't stress enough. It's going to be a very long opening segment, but listen, it'll be definitely worth the while. But you have to make that choice after that countdown. But, Pad, before we get there, give me your spoiler-free statement on Tolerance is Extinction, Part 3, the season finale of X-Men 97.
Best episode of the season, bar none. You know, there were a lot of great episodes in this season, and if you ask me to rank them, you know, from 1 to 10, good God almighty, it's going to be hard to make that list together. Other than this is at the top, and I know which one for me is at the bottom. Everything else in between was phenomenal. And this episode, top to bottom, start to finish, you know, beginning to end, was incredible. You know, the story, what took place, the implications, what the hell it means, where we're going to go. I have no goddamn idea. I know they left a couple breadcrumbs and a couple little tidbits. The implications it has for, I guess we'll call it the animated universe as a whole, because there was a lot of stuff in this episode that I'm like, oh, wow, I did not expect that in the slightest. kind of blows the door wide open for this whole potential animated universe that's separate from the films. And you know what? As somebody who grew up on a lot of those franchises from the 90s, the Spider-Mans and what have you that the Marvel animated did, or who Fox animated, or whoever the hell made it back in the 90s. If I can see those continued in any way, shape, or form, or see those characters return, I'm all for it. But as for this episode, like I said, chef's kiss, perfection.
It's almost a perfect episode for me.
Okay.
Almost. There's a couple things in here that I really have some questions about.
Sure.
But they're minor.
Sure.
Like, if I have to give a grade on it, I'll already bury the lead. It's a 9.7 to me.
Okay.
There is a few things, though, that I thought was a little interesting where they went, but it's a very strong episode, a very emotional-driven episode, and it really capped off a revitalization of the X-Men franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And where we're heading, I was not expecting two places where we're going.
Right.
But I see where we are. I have a few ideas about where things are going. It's a little change of directory for me.
Okay.
But it's not a bad thing. But one of them I think is, I don't know how it's going to go over.
Okay.
I don't. But
okay.
But we have time to process it because we'll have some time to digest what we saw here and really what Bo DeMeo and the team did this season. We have to give full credit to Bo about this.
Absolutely.
Was implement so much of the classic X-Men feel.
Yeah.
And really merge it with some great stories and present it to an audience that it felt new, it felt fresh, but it also kept up what we love about the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
And at no point did they drop the ball on that.
And the thing we do know is we're getting a season 2.
Yes.
We don't know when. We don't know where they are in production. I have been deliberately avoiding Bo DeMeo's Twitter account because I know he will give quote-unquote homework assignments for the next episode as like hey, if you want an idea of what's going to happen in this next episode, here's what you should read or here's what you should watch. Mm-hmm. And I've been deliberately avoiding that just because in case he mentions something I've read or something I've watched, I don't sit there and go, oh my God, I now have an idea. I want to go into this as blind as humanly possible. So as far as I've read online in terms of, the Hollywood Reporters or Varieties or IGNs or what have you, there has been nothing said about where they are production-wise for season 2, but we do know it's coming.
Right. Well, there's no way they can't do a sequel after this.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I think...
Well, I mean, they could Spider-Man Unlimited from back in the 90s, 2000s.
Right, but let's be honest, it's not on this level.
Yeah, true.
Right now, this is the biggest show on television.
Yeah.
Hands down. I don't think you can question it. And if you doubt me, just go on Threads.
Yeah.
Alone, let alone the other social medias. But
yeah.
Go on there and join in that conversation. Trust me, there's a lot to break down with this. But a near perfect episode for me. This was perfection for Pad. But we have to really deep dive in on this. So you know the deal by now, folks. In 3, 2, 1, Pad. Talk to me.
Like I said, episode for me was perfect, start to finish. A lot of tension, a lot of anticipation of what the hell was going to happen. And to see some classic moments on screen was incredible, and just what it means for the wider universe and kind of, the open box or near open box the crew here is getting with this show. As somebody who, was aware, I didn't read all the comics growing up, but I was aware of the characters and I wanted to see them interact with each other, but for one reason or another, they never did. But to finally get that on screen in the classic, style I grew up on and the style I got up every Saturday morning to watch, I'm excited for it. Does everybody need a resurrection for their show? Maybe, maybe not. Some instances I would say yes, some maybe not, but what it means for the universe going forward, I am super excited to see.
This is going into some very interesting territory.
Uh-huh.
And how they summed up one of the most iconic fights in the history of the X-Men and Magneto. I have to say I have a little hesitation with.
Okay.
And I think that it might be a little more complicated to where they're going now.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest argument I have with this episode.
Okay.
Is I think it should have ended on a certain point, and it didn't. And then I also have a question of, how is everybody allowed to breathe in space?
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest questions I had going in with this, and we will obviously get going on that as well. But the amount of people just easy to breathe in space, like nothing happened.
Reasons.
Yeah, is the ultimate reasons I've ever seen. One character I can justify. Two, not so much.
Yeah.
But I will get into that as we go, because where we pick things up, we're right after one of the most devastating moments in all of X-Men history. Wolverine has his adamantium skeleton ripped out by a truly driven Magneto that has now reached his limit. This is the definition of 0 F's given.
Pretty much.
And he does not care at this moment.
Well, he's stopped caring.
Well, he stopped caring, and he is just now basically saying, I'm going to go to that next level. I'm going to switch that gear. He's
also fed up and done with the bullshit he's been putting up with and dealing with for the last, however many decades, because, his relationship with Xavier goes back decades, and his relationship with humanity and Homo sapiens goes back decades. So this isn't something that started, all of a fortnight ago, and he's just kind of got a short fuse. This is a guy that's been down a lot of roads and tried it a lot of different ways, and he even, as we said in the last episode, decided to walk on the other side of the road. He decided to say, hey, you know what? I've tried it this one way for all these years, hasn't gotten me anywhere. Why don't I just like humor myself and try it Xavier's way? And look where it got me. So you know what? I've tried it my way. I've tried it Xavier's way. F y'all. I'm doing this the way I think is best.
Because this entire season has been about him going to the way of Xavier and ultimately realizing it's all a dream.
The man got in front of the United Nations, and despite everything he's done in this universe, and it's quite a list of awful, horrible things he's done in this universe, and was remorseful. That wasn't a bit. That wasn't, him trying to just skate out of trouble. If he really wanted to get out of there, he could have come up with something and gotten out of there. No, in that moment, he was genuinely remorseful and was like, hey, listen, I know I screwed up, but I'm sorry for it.
Yeah. And in this moment, too, Xavier now has to cross a line. And Xavier does not want to do this, but he's now filled with so much rage. He does arguably the unthinkable. He mind wipes Magneto, leaving him more or less brain dead.
Yeah, or almost brain dead.
Yeah, because at this moment, he knows he has to take him out.
Yep.
And this is right from the comics. This is how X-Men 25 ends, so I guess I should say spoiler, but we're in spoiler talk anyway.
And then the issue's been out for how many years now?
Since 93.
Yeah.
As we talked about on Turn a Page, right now currently airing on Nerd Initiative YouTube. When you see this moment happen, Xavier now has taken out Magneto. He just falls to the ground. And by doing such, the Earth that was under his control is now given back.
Yep.
We're seeing everything now come back online.
Yep.
And this causes a big problem because when the Earth was offline, so were the Prime Sentinels. So is everything going on here. But Magneto took the extremes to stop it. Xavier has now reversed it.
Yep.
But at this moment, too, and this kind of was something that didn't set well with me.
Okay.
Xavier crossed the line.
Okay.
Right? So all of a sudden now he's like, I got to go back and save him. And it's like, whoa. You don't have to do that at this moment. Like the instant switch to save Magneto after. I understand. I think, in my opinion, they were trying to go that Xavier did not want to become Magneto in that moment.
Right.
But I thought this felt really rushed.
I mean, to me, it was more a fact. I kind of took it to be he didn't quite know what was going to happen. I think he knew he could do that, but he didn't know the ramifications of what would happen to that level.
Yeah.
That he was like, all right, I know I can do this. This is untested, but you know what? Let's let her rip because I can't let the other outcome come true. And he did it, not realizing the full effects of what would happen, that it would leave Magneto in such a broken catatonic state that if he didn't go into his mind and try to rebuild it and try to save whatever was left of Magneto on the inside, that Magneto would be dead. So I think it was just a case of, I think he went into it knowing, all right, I'm going to wipe his mind. I'm going to, take out the bad or, erase the last 5 years, like whatever it is. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the bare minimum. Whoops, overdid it in my rage and in my fury, and I might have done it a little too much. I might have gone a little too far, in terms of just how hard I stepped on the gas pedal with this. Because instead, he didn't just kind of ease out of the red light.
Oh no, he full went all
he
in.
He didn't ease out of the red light when it turned green. He went full. He went pedal to the metal.
Yeah,
So that's what I took it as is he knew he could do it and he knew it was possible, but I don't think he knew it would be that effective.
Well, I think I could see that point. I mean, but just like I said, for me, it was like, no, you cross that line, it's done. But then he's like, we need him, and just had this weird panic moment. I'm like, you just went there, but it ultimately comes back to their friend. They're the original frenemies.
Well, I think the other thing too is the only thing keeping Asteroid M up, I thought to me was what? I think it was either Magneto or it was the core.
It was the core.
Right. So it was a combination core and Magneto, and that's not looking too hot right now.
No, it's not. So this now kicks off Xavier going into his mind, and
they're at a bar.
Yeah, going back to a flashback sequence of their history, because they have a very long history together.
Yeah.
That they've been the best of friends and the worst of enemies.
Yep.
And that's what makes them such a compelling rivalry,
uh-huh.
to be honest with you. So when you see this all transpire, it's a great throwback, but during this moment, you can start seeing the seeds getting planted for Onslaught.
Uh-huh.
And there's no way you can say it's not.
I don't think they'll do it next season. They might save it for season 3 or 4.
Considering how things ended here, it's going to be the season finale of next season.
Okay.
Mark my words about that. They're not going to do it next season, unfortunately, unless they really try hot-shotting something, but we'll get into that as we go. Meanwhile, on Earth, since power is now restored, the world leaders are now trying to figure out, okay, what to do here.
Both the United Nations and the President of the United States are watching, and, well, they're not thrilled.
Right. And then during this time, though, we start getting cameos.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we do.
So let's talk about it, Pat. Who do we see?
Well, the first one we see a return of Silver Samurai.
Yep.
Which we saw in a previous episode. We do see Captain America again, but he's joined by a friend this time.
Yes.
Iron Man. They're in the Situation Room of the White House. So presumably the Avengers are a thing, because the next thing we see, Doctor Strange performing a surgery of some sort, but he's using his magic.
Because power's off in the hospital.
You got powers in the hospital. Daredevil's there. We see Daredevil. Cloak and Dagger are there. We do end up seeing King T'Chaka's there as well. We see the Winter Guard, which, oh my God, that was a surprise.
Which upgraded with Omega Red.
Yeah. So we see the Winter Guard there. We see a couple more mutants from Genosha, including, North Star, Psylocke, Cypher, Puck, and Aurora.
See, at first glance, I thought this was Alpha Flight, and I'm going, why is Psylocke with Alpha Flight?
Right. I can understand that. We do see Sauron and Mr. Fantastic in there as well. We do see...
that was Morph, actually.
Oh.
No, that wasn't a cameo, though. That was when Morph was shape-shifting.
Okay.
But in those cameos you touched upon, we do see an expanded Marvel universe.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we see how everybody is reacting now to the Prime Sentinels coming back online. New York is in chaos.
Yeah.
Daredevil's doing everything he can to maintain the peace. I love the fact that they threw in Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
Because Cloak and Dagger is one of the most iconic duos of the late 1980s in Marvel Comics.
Right.
So that's a nice Easter egg. Their Hulu show, vastly underrated. If you go through the echelon of the ODPH, you know we were breaking that series down. So it is awesome to see them come in this moment. But we also get a cameo of a certain neighborhood wall crawler.
Yeah, we do see Peter Parker, Mary Jane Watson, and Flash Thompson.
Yes.
All in the background, which, hey, I know some people are excited, like, oh, my God, he found MJ.
Yes.
Let's not forget Spider-Man series finale aired in 1998. This is set in 1997, so there's still a possibility she could be missing.
Right.
Just want to say.
But we have to wait to see how this all plays out.
We'll see.
But we go back to the Washington, D.C. headquarters, and you do see Captain America and Iron Man like you talked about.
Right, and there's a big debate between, the folks in the room, including Cap, as to whether they should go about responding to this. And that what'll public perception be and how will things go. And if I remember right, Cap even says, and I'm paraphrasing, like, you can do this, but there's no turning back from it.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to be the voice of reason.
Right.
And yet again, Iron Man is to blame for everything going on.
Of course.
Because you see him show up, and of course, that's his first notion, is just to mess everything up. He's the reason for the attack on New York to begin with in the MCU.
Reason for the season.
Yep, exactly. He's the problem. It's him. Hi. He's the problem. It's him.
Yep.
But we do see that, yeah, Cap is trying to reason with everybody, but it feels like his voice isn't being heard.
No, it's not, because while they're all telling the president this, he's looking at a file, and it is like a little bio thing on Magneto, and it says Omega level, and then he flips the page back to the first page, and then he closes the envelope, and it does say Magneto protocols on the cover.
Mm-hmm. So it is an interesting scenario that the United Nations have had a plan for Magneto, which that does not surprise me.
Well, at least the U.S. does.
Yeah.
I'm not clear if it's just the U.S. or the UN as a whole. At the bare minimum, the United States does, which I can understand.
Oh, makes complete sense. So I'm not doubting that
Yeah.
at all. The only thing, though, like I will say, I thought this was odd, though, for Captain America.
Okay.
Because I would have seen him more just jump in and be like, no, we can't do this.
Right.
So I will say I did not like how he was written in this.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like...
He definitely didn't seem to put up that much of a fight. But then again, it's a limited time frame of how much they can show in this episode. If this were a full-fledged movie or even like an hour and a half long episode, okay, then you could do it. But the fact that it was only like 40 minutes or so, and you got to take out maybe like a minute or two or 4 minutes for credits and the intro. You've only got 36 or 37 minutes worth of playtime, and you have a lot to wrap up because there's no episode next week.
Yeah, no, I see that point too. Just the only thing is the two times we've seen him, it almost feels like he was written as John Walker was Cap, not Steve Rogers.
Oh, we haven't seen him name drop Steve Rogers, so it could be.
Well, like I say, it just seemed kind of odd, like the early pre-US Agent days.
Yeah.
When he was Cap.
Yeah.
So, like I say, the writing just did not seem to match up to Steve Rogers. But
sure.
I digress, because that's just a minor plot point that I picked up on. So while this is going on, we do have the fight going on with Bastion.
Uh-huh.
And this is where things get a little wild.
A little hairy.
To say the least, Pad. Because what happens when Bastion shows up?
Well, he starts taking control back of the Sentinels because they got temporarily knocked out of commission.
Mm-hmm.
But they then capture Forge, Beast, and Storm, wrap them up in their metal arm things or whatever they are, and then bring them to, I forget who it was.
Sinister.
Sinister, that's what it was.
Yeah, they wind up meeting with Mr. Sinister.
Who's still talking to Cable.
Yeah. And at this point, too, Bastion comes in and he's been sorely defeated at this stage.
Yeah.
And he does a move that, like, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure how this was going to play out.
Okay.
Because I had an idea that something should have happened and it didn't.
Okay.
Bastion winds up ripping off Cable's cybernetic arm.
Yeah.
To retool himself.
Yeah.
And the only thing I'm going is, inside said armor is the techno-organic virus.
Yeah.
So he just infected himself.
In theory.
In theory. But he winds up now turning into this weird
Archangel
type.
Yeah. I think it was just a moment for shock value that, like, okay, we need to get from point A to point B in the plot. Mm-hmm. And this is the easiest thing to do because, okay, he is a living Sentinel. It makes no sense for him to, grab hold of a Sentinel and ride it like he's the fucking Silver Surfer into space.
Right.
So I think it was just a case of like, all right, we're given how the story plays out, we're going to ignore the techno-organic virus thing because it ain't going to matter by the end of the episode. And we just need to get him from A to B, and this is the easiest way to do it.
Mm-hmm. But all the while, we see Jean Grey is underwater.
Yep.
Because of where they are in the Galapagos Islands.
Yeah, I thought she was dead. Turns out she's not.
No. She winds up conjuring one of the most devastating forces in all of the universe.
Uh-huh.
And what does she bring back, Pat?
The Phoenix.
Yes. The Phoenix Force comes back.
Do you know how hard I marked out when I heard her say, "I am Phoenix"? Took me right back to my childhood.
Oh, I marked out too.
Oh.
I have no shame about it. Jean Grey Phoenix is one of my favorite characters of all time.
Jean Grey animated Phoenix.
Yes.
Let's get that straight.
Yeah.
We're not talking live action.
No, definitely not talking that. But we will be talking about the new Phoenix series that's coming out later this summer from Stephanie Phillips. Shout out to her and the team working on that book. I'm super excited about that. Sorry, sidetracked. Because the Jean Grey hype is here.
Yep.
And she comes in, puts back together the collar or headband that is supposed to nullify Bastion's powers.
Well, or nullify his technopathy with the other Sentinels.
Mm-hmm. And comes in and literally does something which I was shocked at.
Uh-huh.
I've never seen this happen to Mr. Sinister before.
Uh-huh.
And Pat, what does she do?
Rips out all of the DNA that's inside his little body and turns him into a haggard old man.
Yes. So you do see that she essentially kills Mr. Sinister.
And scares the fuck out of him because she rips all of the DNA out of him, turns him into an old haggard man. He then goes up to Morph.
Of all people.
Morph of all people, and for whatever goddamn reason goes, show me what I look like. Morph turns just his head into the head that Sinister has, and it scares the fuck out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so at this point, though, the Phoenix does not last around.
No, it's like the last bit of it, and I think she even says in the episode that it's left her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For now.
Which it does. I mean, this is something the Phoenix does find a different host, but in much in the same vein as Venom and Eddie Brock, it always finds its way back to Jean Grey.
Yes, it does.
No matter what. So this also, really solidifies that there was no question this was Madeline Pryor. This is all Jean Grey. She does have like kind of a unique reunion with Cable at this moment too. Yep. And so, like I said, there's nothing but big win here. But then we go back to Asteroid M. You get a little bit more of what's going on with Magneto and Charles as he's trying to reason. And at this time too, Wolverine is still in very bad shape. And I thought this was a very cool moment that plays out. We see Cyclops go up to him. Mm-hmm. And literally just kind of whispers in his ear. He's like, don't let her down.
Yeah.
You're the best at what you do, so heal.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing a bit. I was like, that's a mutual respect amongst enemies right there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's face it, they're not BFFs unless the Krakoan era is here.
Yeah, that's true.
But this is a moment that I thought was very, very cool to see play out. And once we see this, it really solidifies like how dangerous the moment was with Wolverine because he's still out of commission. And I will say this is something that was different in the comics. I've seen a lot of people question this online. Pat, I just want your opinion. In the comic, Jean Grey is there and is holding Logan together.
Yes.
She's not here.
That is true.
He is very stable.
Yes.
As things are playing out.
Yes.
Did that have any effect on you at all?
I mean, having read the issue last night before the issue dropped, just because I knew part of that story was going to be the central focus of this episode, it did confuse me a little bit, but you know what I just chalked it up to? Reasons.
Yeah, I let this one
go.
Like
I did catch that in the comic that like she can't help in any way, shape, or form because she's literally holding Logan together. Mm-hmm. I don't know the explanation. Maybe it was an off screen in between episodes. You know what? Xavier turned around and put it all back in him and he's all fine and hunky dory, but who knows?
Yeah, no, this is an interesting scenario to see play out. So when we see this, it was very interesting to me because when Wolverine is medalless and coming back to Earth in Wolverine 75, like it's a whole different ball game here.
Yeah.
This one, he's more subdued and healing, just very, almost in a coma, if you will. So it is an interesting scenario to see play out.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, they do a little more jumping around because everything is leading to the UN is leading the attack on Asteroid M.
All the meanwhile this is going on, we do keep flashing back briefly to Charles and Magneto having their conversation in the bar. And I think at one point Charles does even contact the rest of the X-Men and tells them like, hey, you guys got to take care of your own business. I'm in here trying to save Magneto, and I've got a limited amount of time to do it.
Mm-hmm. So all the while, Bastion now in his new form flies into Asteroid M.
Yep.
And he's basically saying, okay, we're going to just take this all out.
And meanwhile, the crew on Asteroid M gets a warning from, Storm?
Yeah.
That, like, he's on his way, but we need Beast and Forge to build us a way to get up there. And, it just cuts to them trying to, like, solder some stuff together. And they're like, she's like, it's going to be a while.
Mm-hmm. Because at this point, Bastion comes flying in there. And then there's a face-off with Rogue.
Yeah.
And this is where, I mean, I thought it was a very cool moment.
Yeah.
But yet again, they wind up flying out of Asteroid M and going to the, I'm presuming it's the blue area of the moon.
Probably.
How the heck is she breathing in space?
Reasons.
Well, I will say this. It made sense for her because if I am not mistaken, of course, hashtag ODPH pod this. She has the powers of Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers.
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, Captain Marvel.
Yes.
It's Miss Marvel when she got the powers. But so as far as I know, Carol Danvers does not need to breathe in space.
Yeah.
So I understood that. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm all right with this. Great fight sequences going on. We're seeing a lot of apocalypse imagery happening here too.
Yeah.
That's what made me think it was the blue area.
Uh-huh.
But then I see Roberto, and he's now fully in Sunspot mode.
Yeah. He's bought into what the X-Men are telling him.
And I don't see him with any headgear protecting his oxygen levels.
I mean, maybe it's his powers generate something that doesn't require him to breathe. I don't know.
That's just, like I say, that was just something I'm saying going like, everybody is now flying in space like there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a little confusing.
Well, I mean, there's enough gravity that like you could jump and throw yourself.
True.
You're on the moon.
Right. Like I say, I mean,
and I've been trying the last couple of minutes to dig up the size of Asteroid M because I know they said it during the episode of like how big it was and how many people it would, because once the asteroid starts falling to Earth, like they said the size and all that. So like I would gather at that size, it's got enough of a mass that it generates gravity that like you could again jump and throw yourself.
Yeah. So like I say, they're having a great fight go down. Rogue even drops the whole, remember his name is Gambit.
Yeah, she's got a bone to pick with Bastion, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, they're having a great fight sequence happen too.
Yeah.
And that's one thing for fans, I mean, we can be very, very excited about. The action sequences here were really going on.
Yeah.
Especially when the fight gets back to Asteroid M. And we see Cyclops go complete Capcom versus Marvel, unloading one of the biggest eye blasts on Bastion.
What does he say? Stay away from my family.
Yeah, like now all of a sudden he's getting that pep talk.
Yep.
Because like I say, previously, he had been just really kind of bottling up all the rage going on.
Well, and plus I think at this point he up until this point he was kind of in defensive mode because it's the last episode it's like, oh well, we have to buy enough time for the crew on Earth, which includes my wife, to do what they need to do. And that's why we saw what happened in the last episode. Well, now that everyone's here, and Storm even mentions when they show up from Earth that Forge is tending to Cable.
Yeah.
So Cable's fine, Jean's fine. All of a sudden he has no hesitation about we need to take care of this guy. And that's when you see him dial it to 11. But much like you would expect, it doesn't go well.
No, it definitely doesn't.
No.
So they have to go on that fight sequence. So it's a moment happening with Scott, and then Jubilee has a moment too.
Jubilee slams it. Scott takes out temporarily Bastion, although Bastion gets back up, starts throwing individual blasts at Scott. Scott tries to take him out, but he's overpowered. Gets knocked to the ground. Jubilee gets up, and Bastion has a great line. He goes, "What are you going to do? Hit me with the 4th of July fireworks?"
It's so perfect.
And Jubilee goes, never heard that one before. She goes at him, rips his wings off with her powers, and then slams his head into the side of a sentinel or the side of a head of a sentinel that was there, messes Bastion's head up. But all the meanwhile, Bastion still gets up.
Right. And I will say this too, for Jubilee, she can use her powers in many, many productive ways.
Yeah.
It's just for whatever reason, it's not really written that well.
Yeah.
Over the comics. Like, I don't understand why. Because, I mean, there's certain moments that she really stands out and you understand the hype behind her.
I think for a lot of people, they just might not understand how to use the powers, that it's like, ooh, look, pretty colors.
Yeah. But we do see this in full force, and this can show what she is truly capable of.
Yeah.
So I liked how she was set up here.
Yeah.
And then we do see Bastion worse for wear after the Sentinel head comes down on him. He thinks his family is now coming to him as a Sentinel is flying in.
Yep.
And lo and behold, Pad, who is in that Sentinel?
That is the crew from the Earth.
Yes, the gold team has arrived, much to the happiness of the blue team. So there's a reunion with Storm and Jean and Morph, who flies out of there as Sauron, taking it back to the Savage Land moment, which was that was a cool moment to see.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Beast is sitting there and almost trying to stomp out Bastion.
Yeah.
But it's not working too well. He's getting the system overridden.
Yep.
At this moment, though,
the thing runs out of power.
It runs out of power because, I mean, this is what him and Forge were working on Earth. They run out of power, and at the worst possible time, too, because at said moment, the UN missiles have now arrived.
Well, yeah, because they start talking about, like, oh, we need to practice what we preach, and we need to talk about it. And they start telling him, they're like, hey, listen, Xavier Charles came for you. And, your mother lied to you. And he goes, and Bastion says, oh, well, if she lied to me, she was doing it to protect me. And they're talking about how, listen, we need to work with humanity. And he goes, well, what? You mean the same people who want to kill you? Oh, they don't want to do anything with you. And they go, well, no, they're having kids, and their kids are more and more, their kids are turning out like us. And at that point, when he's like, oh, yeah, well, that's same people that want to destroy you, because then at that point, the proximity alarms go off in the asteroid. And like, oh, yeah, hey, by the way, missiles are coming.
Mm-hmm. So at this moment, explosions are going off left and right. The core that is holding all the gravity for Asteroid M is destroyed.
Uh-huh.
There's very big explosions. Jean Grey has everybody bottled up as the explosions are happening. They reach out to Bastion. They're trying to make their best peace offering to have him join, and he is just defiant about it.
Yeah.
And he literally flies into the explosion.
Yup.
So he is now, presumed gone.
Comics.
Yep. And now Asteroid M is crashing to Earth.
Whoops.
Yep. Which is
so
something.
Much for your Magneto protocols.
Yeah, this is what the government did not think about. So as they're coming down, it's like a standoff of like what we're gonna do. Scott and Jean have this moment where they connect with Cable.
Yeah.
Have their like final moment with them.
Well, it's like not Xavier. Scott said he didn't want to be like his dad and not say goodbye to his son.
Yeah.
And he has Jean use her powers to temporarily turn his powers off so he can look at his son with his eyes and not shoot ray blasts everywhere.
Yeah. Because he's ready to blow up the entire asteroid.
Sacrifice himself.
And get everybody off, which Jean is fighting, and they're planning on going down themselves. And as things are looking at their bleakest.
Because meanwhile, this is going on, it cuts back to Earth, and the news channels are talking about how the asteroid has fallen, and they're talking about the size and how many people it's going to kill. I think it's Forge looks at it, or somebody on Earth looks at it and says, oh, it's reached terminal velocity.
Yeah. So they all know that this is going down. And it is kind of wild to see how this is all playing out because the people of Earth just are like, wait, well, what is this? Like, how could we go here?
Yeah.
And yet somebody emerges, and sure enough, it is Magneto. So Charles has finally revived Magneto to save the day.
Yep.
So the planet does stop. Or the asteroid.
Yeah, he catches the asteroid.
Yeah. So the planet is saved.
Yep.
But something weird happens on the way. And Pat, what is that?
There's an explosion but it doesn't look like any sort of explosion I would have ever seen before.
Right. So suddenly Asteroid M is gone. And so are the X-Men.
But it's not like a fiery explosion. It's like a mystical explosion.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Over the New York skyline. So everybody's saying they're trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, first they're excited, and they're excited, and all the other X-Men on the ground are like, wait, what the fuck just happened?
And see, for me, this kind of reminded me of Fall of the Mutants. So this has been something I've been hinting at for a little while.
Okay.
Is they go through the Siege Perilous. This is how they wind up in Australia.
Right.
So I'm thinking like, okay, we're going here.
Sure.
This'll be interesting.
Sure.
But sure enough, we find out that this is not the case.
Right.
That we see that the team winds up
split.
And this is after there's a run-in at what is presumably Forge's headquarters. And he comes across the one and only Bishop.
Well, Bishop finds him.
Yeah.
And Bishop knows who Forge is, but I couldn't tell if Forge knew who he was.
He didn't.
Okay, because he's like, oh, bold of you to presume we're friends. And Bishop's like, no, trust me, we're here for the same thing.
He's like, we will be.
Yeah.
But not at this moment.
Right.
And you do see that there is a board that looks almost like the Days of Future Past. And you do see that there are X-Men on there.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of mutants on there.
Yep. That we do see some familiar faces are still on the board and have not been ruled out. Presumably, the biggest ones I'm seeing on there, Exodus, Emma Frost, Magic, Colossus, Havoc, Iceman, and I can't tell who the one is on the second row.
Where all the way to the bottom right?
No, there's Kitty Pryde is on there.
No, yeah, I've got the list here. So It's 3 rows, and the whole entire top row is the X-Men we know: Cyclops, Jean, Storm, Beast, Magneto, Nightcrawler, Jubilee, and then Roberto. Then once you start the second, they're all missing, presumed dead, except for Jubilee and Roberto. I can't really tell what it says on the image I'm looking at for those two.
Yeah.
But then in the second row, it starts with Xavier. He is missing, presumed dead. Then it goes to the Scarlet Witch. She's got a thing over that says off-world. There's nothing for Colossus. Then it's Morph and Rogue, who are missing, presumed dead. Then you go to Dust, which...
Okay, that's the one I couldn't tell.
Dust, which nothing on her name. Archangel is missing, presumed dead. Then in the bottom row, you've got Wolverine missing, presumed dead. Iceman, nothing over his name. Havoc, nothing over his name. Cable's listed as AWOL, which is interesting since Forge was taking care of him. Where the hell is Cable gone? Then you've got Exodus, nothing over his name. Quicksilver, who's listed as Off-World, and then the last two are Shadowcat and Emma Frost.
Mm-hmm. So it is interesting to see how this is all setting up.
Uh-huh.
Meanwhile, we do hear on a radio broadcast the name of Graydon Creed.
Well, he's running against the current president, and the current president is losing because of something else that had happened.
Mm-hmm. So I do like how they're throwing that in the mix. But it does look like Forge is putting together his own team, which, if memory serves me right, I think he did this at one point in the comics.
Could be.
But it was brief. It was super, super brief.
I mean, it could just be a case of like, hey, we need to get a crew together to go find them, and I can't do it by myself.
Right. So, like I say, I think this is going to be a standalone story in that aspect.
Yeah.
But we do see that Bishop and Forge are going to be the two major players for next season.
Yep.
As they have to go track down what happened to the X-Men.
Uh-huh.
But we do get a time jump, a couple of them actually. The first one, because obviously we jumped 6 months in advance with Bishop and Forge.
Yep.
We now jump to ancient Egypt.
3000 BC to be specific.
Right. So we do see Nightcrawler, Rogue, Beast, Xavier, and Magneto as they're jumping in to a skirmish, if you will.
Yep.
And we do see there is a warrior fighting everybody off.
Well, it's this crew of odd-looking folks taking on what seems to be average folks, average citizens, and then, like you said, this one person jumps in and a little overmatched.
Yeah. And who is that?
En Sabah Nur, a.k.a. Apocalypse.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know who that was, well, pulling off the mask should have tipped you off.
Right. So we are now going to have the storyline, and this is something in the comics that's the 12. And this is going to be very, very interesting to see how this all plays out. Because in this time frame, there is some elements that will carry over to Wolverine getting his adamantium back.
Sure.
And he will be a horseman of death. Now, keep that in mind as we go a little later in this breakdown, because as the episode winds up, there is another time jump
to 3960 AD.
And we do see that Jean Grey and Scott Summers are in there. It's post-apocalyptic.
Yep.
And we do see a bunch of strangers surrounding them. And there's one that stands out above the crowd. And that's Mother Ascani. Now, Pad, you don't know who that is.
Nope.
Okay. So this is something that happened in the comics.
Okay.
And who this character is Rachel Summers.
Oh, shit. I know that name.
Who is the alternate timeline from Days of Future Past daughter of Scott and Jean Grey.
Right, which they did do Days of Future Past in the cartoon the first go-around.
Right. So in the future, she is running the Ascani clan.
Right.
And if you go into the comics, she is the one that goes back in time to get Nathan Summers when he's infected to get him to the future and save his life.
Right.
Well, this kind of happens here. Because as this group is standing there talking with Scott and Jean, a young boy emerges who has a good feeling about the strangers that are before them. And Pat, who is that?
Nathan.
Yep.
Summers.
So what is going to happen is in the future, as they're fighting with Apocalypse, Scott and Jean get a chance to raise Nathan. And this is something that happens in the comics. It's The Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix if you want to go to your comic shops to go track it down. Also on Marvel Unlimited. So this is something that's going to play out. It's only going to be for a few episodes. It was only 4 issues in the comics. So,
right.
But it's a cool moment because this does heal a lot of wounds.
Sure.
Because Scott and Jean get a chance to raise a young Nathan. So when they come back to the future, or present, I should say, from the future, there's going to be a little more easiness between them.
So what you're saying is I'm not going to get my wish of heel turn Scott Summers.
No.
Damn.
No, not at this moment. No.
Damn.
No, he's going to come back and he'll be in a different place though.
Okay.
Because he finally gets the chance to do what he always wanted, and that was raise his son. Mm-hmm. So they'll have some cool adventures. Like I said, it's only going to chances are this will be kind of like Life Death.
Probably.
It's only going to be a couple episodes.
Probably.
Think. But then we get one of the more easy cliffhangers that we've seen. Because in the Remnants of Genosha, we do see an imposing figure walking around.
Yep.
Talking about death, and holds up a playing card from one Gambit. And sure enough, Pat, who is that?
Apocalypse.
Yep. So much like we discussed here previously,
he's going to resurrect him because that's the only way to bring Gambit back.
Yep.
And why is that? Because Cable tried going to the events of Genosha when the bomb went off and people died, and he kept getting pulled away. It was a fixed point in time. You could not change it no matter what happened. So in every universe, in every timeline, Gambit died.
Mm-hmm.
So this is literally the only way to do it.
Yeah. And that's how it wraps up. Which, like we say, there's a lot going on with this episode.
Mm-hmm.
A real lot.
Yeah.
A lot, like I say, cameos galore. Like I say, even there were some flashback sequences where you did see Polaris, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch.
You saw their outline. You didn't see their face, but it was pretty obvious who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did see at one point too Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost.
Yeah. Yeah. The Hellfire Club was still around.
Mm-hmm. I know there was some talk about, Onslaught, and yeah, I think they've teased enough.
Yeah. That's one they're not going to go full tilt with just yet.
No, but they will be introducing him sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, my prediction is he will emerge at the end of next season.
I could see it season 3.
Yeah, I think that's fully going to happen. They mixed in a lot of great cameos from the MCU. We did see Morph, though, was the one who was doing a lot of that, especially with him becoming Mr. Fantastic for this episode, so taking it back to the 90s cartoon.
Yeah.
Like I say, there is a lot that happened in this series that is going to really carry some momentum moving forward, and the fact they're going all in on Apocalypse next season, I think is smart. I like the idea.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that I think might be a little bit of a problem is you're going to have too many timelines.
Yeah.
And that could get very, very messy because...
Well, I think if you keep the timeline self-contained to a couple episodes and then you bring them all together, further down the road, I think it'll keep it simple.
They're going to have to. Like, you're going to literally have to have, hypothetically, if they do 10 episodes again.
Yeah.
3, 3, and 3, and then bring everybody back for the
finale.
finale.
I mean, you could do 2, 2, and 2, and then do a 4-part.
Yeah,
4-part finale.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to need to mess around with that.
I can't imagine they're going to jump around for every episode between the 3 timelines.
I think that'd be disastrous.
Yeah, it could be.
I absolutely think that would be disastrous. Like, I think if they keep it very self-contained, do it almost like as an anthology style next season.
Sure.
If they're going to do the 3 timelines, which it looks like they're going to, that could definitely have some more payoff going on. But what a season.
Yeah.
To kind of put in a retrospect. Like, for what we were expecting, I think everybody's expectations got blown out of the water.
Yeah, I would say so.
And I think that now we have this newfound appreciation for the X-Men.
Yeah.
And going back to that classic era, that late 80s, early 90s era of X-Men. And I think how they're dabbling in with everybody is really going to be a fun take for new readers to get involved with.
Well, and just especially of how wide open, this animated universe is, because you think back to the Spider-Man animated series back in the 90s and how that was the closest thing to a crossover we got, and they had to go through hoops and jump through special things just to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't bring everybody over, but it was pretty well established they were in separate universes, because there was that moment where he brought together, he brought Captain America in, and Storm got brought in, and a bunch of the Fantastic Four came in, but they were very clearly brought through a portal.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just hey, let me pick up my phone and call Reed Richards for help. Like, no, they're all in the same universe. They're all in the same timeline.
Yeah, no, it definitely works out.
Super exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting on this. I mean, they really set a high bar.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how next season is going to be. Obviously, there will be changes.
Yeah. There always are.
But for what we got,
Let's just hope it's not changes from season 4 to season 5 of X-Men, the first series.
Yeah, let's fingers definitely crossed.
Season 2 to season 3 of Gargoyles.
Hey. We got to think positive because there's a lot to take away from this. I think overall, this really was a refreshing take.
Yeah.
And the big takeaway I'm getting more or less is I have people hitting me up on the social media is going like, what storylines are these from? I want to go back to the comic shops and read them. I want to check this out on Marvel Unlimited. That's the biggest thing I can say as a fan, because you're going to have a nice deep dive into that classic era.
Yeah.
And that when we get the re-up this summer in the comics, like I said, we already touched upon like how amazing the new Phoenix story is going to be with Stephanie Phillips, Hive Mind doing NYX. And then you got Gail Simone back at Marvel and doing X-Men or Uncanny X-Men, and Jed McKay and Ryan Stegman on X-Men. Like I say, it's going to be an amazing time to be a fan with this franchise.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Pat, final thoughts on the finale and season?
Super excited to see where things go from here. The season as a whole was incredible from start to finish. One little hiccup in the middle, but hey, that's not a knockdown on the entire series. Just the one episode was but no, everything about this was a win and incredible, and I hate that we got to wait, but I understand it.
9.7 on the season, 9.7 on the grading. Ironic, isn't it? That is how good this was. The finale definitely lived up. There were a couple hiccups here and there. Like I say, they're going to be juggling around a lot of timelines. That's the only thing I'm really hesitant about.
Sure.
But they've proved right now that they can handle it, so I'm hoping they carry that through in the next season. And then, obviously, there's a lot of X-Men storylines to get talking about, so I was super excited to go check that out. But we gave you our takes. Now we want to hear yours, ODPH Society. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. X-Men 97, Season 1 is a wrap. How are you feeling? Let's talk about that episode, shall we? And if you want a further deep dive, Friday, May 17th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative YouTube, we are going to be having an X-Men 97 recap. 2 days to process everything that went down. Sure, the conversation is going to be excellent. Megan from Vigilante Vibes is going to be kicking that off. A lot of great things happening there. So definitely make sure to do that on the social medias and subscribe and do what you got to. But let's have that conversation after we take a quick break, shall we? We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale Am I is into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe Howl at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts after it debuts on the radio station.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and there was a Star Wars series.
Yes, there was.
That flew under the radar.
Well, kind of.
Obviously, everything going on with May the 4th be with you, and X-Men 97 dominating the airwaves. It came and went, but still was worthwhile, still lived up to some hype, and gave us a new take on the greatest faction in the galaxy far, far away, and that is the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Pat, what are we going to be discussing?
We're going to be talking about Tales of the Empire, which I guess you could call the second season of the Tales franchise from the Star Wars folks. Of course, first season was Tales of the Jedi, came out in 2022. This one, as you alluded to, Tales of the Empire, which was, 6 episodes. 6 shorts, I guess you could say.
Yeah, 6 short episodes, really taking a deep dive into the life and times of the Empire, and really, making things stand out, much like they did with Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah,
which is just a little fun break. You get a little deep dive into certain characters, done anthology style too. Like I said, I really enjoy the series. I think it's something cool especially when you get those new takes on certain characters, and that's what we got here with Tales of the Empire. So this was one that when it was first announced, we weren't really sure what to imagine was happening here.
Yeah,
but when we got this, like I say, it really got here. It got the imagination going. A lot of big wins happening.
A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the season in general, kind of give us our good, bad, and whatever's about this. So that being said, we're going to do it like we did last time, spoiler-free statement, countdown, and then we get into it. So, Pat, give me your spoiler-free statement on Tales of the Empire.
Thought it was good. You can split it up into 2 halves. The first 3 episodes focused on one character. The second 3 focused on another character. And both were interesting, although one more so than the other for me personally. I enjoyed all six shorts. It was fun to watch and fun to explore those little side bits. And it's definitely one of those series that, like, if you've got enough there for a story, you can do it. It doesn't need to be a full-fledged show. It doesn't need to be a full-fledged season for some characters. You can do it, tell a couple of interesting stories, and confirm a couple theories fans have had for a while. Get in, get out, get done, and it was fun.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. This is a fun series.
Yeah.
I didn't take it too seriously. I mean, it was what it was, and that was short, quick, and to the point.
Uh-huh.
That's why I say, like, I didn't really get, like, as a deep dive, per se, as I would for The Bad Batch or some of the other shows.
Sure.
But this really gave a spotlight on characters that I think had some great information coming out.
Yeah.
With this. And it kept me as a fan entrenched in what was going on. Obviously, one storyline I think stuck out for me as well, too, more than the other. But it was one that I like seeing takes like this. I like seeing more like this. And I really think, like, by the time we got done with this, I'm curious to see where they're going to go if they decide to do a third volume.
Okay.
So that being said, in 3, 2, 1. Talk to me, Pat.
Like I said, the series was fun. I enjoyed the story with Barriss Offee way more than I did with the stuff with Morgan Elsbeth. Just because we know what happens with Morgan Elsbeth. This is just explaining her backstory. You know, she was a new character that was introduced during the Ahsoka series. Barriss Offee, up to this point, we had no fucking clue what happened to her. Of course, she got arrested at the end of season 5 of the Clone Wars. Didn't know what happened to her afterwards. There was nothing in comics. There was nothing in the novels. There's been nothing in video games. Just complete radio silence on what the hell happened to her between the events of Revenge of the Sith and, well, anything afterwards. So when the trailer came out and we found out, hey, we're going to find out what happened to Barriss Offee, I went, oh, hell yes, because I've been curious about this, and there's been fan speculation and fan theories for years about this. So the series as a whole, though, loved it.
Yeah, overall, I really enjoy this, but I do agree with you. I think 4, 5, and 6 was a lot stronger than 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
I think the original story of Morgan Elsbeth,
it was interesting.
It was interesting.
Yeah, because like we said, we didn't know anything about her other than she was from Dathomir, and she somehow ended up with Thrawn.
Yeah. It was very, you know, I don't want to say the words, like, predictable.
Sure.
But it really didn't have, like, a big, like, you know, presence, I guess it would probably be the nicest way I could say it. It's still enjoyable, though.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm not sitting there going, like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen.
It's a fun few episodes that maybe take you a half hour to watch in total. If you saw Ahsoka, saw Morgan Elsbeth, and went, what the hell is her story? Well, here you go.
Yeah, and I think it worked. I mean, we saw some cameos. I mean, obviously, Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, Thrawn. Lars Mikkelsen reprising his role as Admiral Thrawn. They put the fear back in Grievous in episode 1. Holy shit, I'm talking Gennady Tartakovsky micro series fear back in Grievous. Holy fuck, he was awesome in that first episode.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because once they start doing, you know, some business, so to speak.
Yeah. Of course, it's episode 1. It's the attack on Dathomir, where Grievous and the Separatist droid army massacre the Night Sisters.
Yeah.
Which, of course, Matthew Wood reprises his role as General Grievous wonderfully, might I add.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it does, it says it follows Morgan right from there.
Yeah.
And how she winds up getting involved with Thrawn and company there.
Yeah.
And it is a very cool play, and obviously we do see how this all rolls back to Bo-Katan by the time we get all said and done. So like I say, there's a lot of fun things that happen here.
Yeah.
And to see how this is all shaping up, you know, it really plays into what we've already seen.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, this is just a nice companion piece.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you, though. The Barriss storyline, like, that's the take-home here.
Just because if you watch Clone Wars, and if you haven't, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
You see Barriss, because Barriss was shown briefly in Attack of the Clones. You see her master, Luminara, in the arena scene of Attack of the Clones. Real quick shot. And then they were briefly explored, and I mean like briefly, because the first season of Clone Wars micro series, which is on Disney Plus, it's in the classics section of the Star Wars Hub if you want to go watch it. They do the nice thing and they put it together as a movie. So because when it originally aired, it was like 5-minute shorts that were put on the Cartoon Network website. It wasn't broadcasted, but they cut it together and they made it all 2 seasons. It's movie format, so it flows together beautifully. But there was an episode in that micro series that kind of focused on Luminara and her Padawan Barriss. That was all we got.
Yeah.
You know, featured in a couple novels and whatnot, but never really too much. But you saw her in Clone Wars, and she developed this close friendship with Ahsoka. And then what happens in season 5 transpires at the end of the season, where it turns out, hey, she's kind of disingenuous and kind of, you know, disenfranchised with what the Jedi are doing, and she's not exactly on board, and she ends up doing some things and ends up getting caught and arrested. And that was kind of where we left it. And that was in 2012, I want to say it was, somewhere around there. We've heard nothing since. We didn't know what happened to her. There were some fan theories like, oh, she turned into a Inquisitor and she joined the Empire and but there was never anything confirmed. So the fact that we got some confirmation with what the hell happened, super exciting.
Yeah, no, definitely very super exciting to see. Like I say, it was just cool to really get that kind of idea where it plays out. Because like you touched on, Barris is a wide open book. Mm-hmm. And we don't know that much.
She still is.
Yeah, for the most part, but still, to see how, she's brought into this.
Yeah.
And to see her story play out.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, getting trained by the Grand Inquisitor.
Well, yeah, because it picks up probably not long after she gets arrested, and she's in the jail cell, and we find out she's serving a life sentence for what she did, and she then sees, I think it's the morning after Anakin or Vader, whatever you want to call him, attacks the Jedi Temple, and she sees the Jedi Temple burning, and she then asks one of the clones who are guarding her, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" And he says, "Hey," and they don't give her any solid answers. It's just, "Hey, just be glad you're no longer a Jedi because you'd be dead right now." Mm-hmm. And that's when she come to find out, she finds out about Order 66 and the Jedi are gone. And now it's the Empire and it's, the Emperor's ruling things. And she basically gets a get out of jail free card. It's like, hey, you can stay here and rot forever, or you can join us and pay off your debt.
Yeah.
And she goes, hey, being outside is a lot better than being inside. I'll join you.
Mm-hmm. So, like I say, she takes the deal, and then you kind of see her roll into action.
Yeah.
And it is very cool to see how this all plays out. Because even when she's using the Force.
Yeah.
Which, I was not expecting to see this play.
Okay.
Me, like I say, the stuff I know, being a former Jedi, is like, I'm not sure how that all works.
Yeah, she definitely was kind of slowly buying into it. It looked like she was kind of thinking there, but she was never really fully comfortable with it.
Yeah, so
it's a different side and a different mentality you got to tap into.
Mm-hmm. So once you see how her story plays out, like I say, when she's kind of fighting back and forth, and then obviously when she has to go visit the family who's trying to protect the child with the Force sensitivity.
Yeah, she goes with the fourth sister. That's what they call the Inquisitors. Just so we can differentiate them other than, hey, that's the tall one. Hey, that's the short one.
Yeah.
I think they give them numbers. Yeah, they go to find a Jedi in hiding. The fourth sister is all about wrecking shop, kicking ass, and taking names later. And that's when Barris... Because the thing we got to remember is it's never really firmly said in the Clone Wars, but her and Ahsoka are teenagers. They're children. They're child soldiers. So when she sees the family and the kids specifically's reaction to what's going on, she's been there. She's seen this. She's had to deal with this. And she didn't like it then. She doesn't like it now. That's the whole reason she turned on the Jedi was the war and what was being done. And here she is seeing it perpetuated again.
Yeah. So it is a very cool moment to see, like I say, and especially how everything ends up too.
Yeah.
Like I say, that's probably the most wildest take for me.
Yeah.
That when we see that, when Barris gets stabbed, the fourth sister breaks.
Yeah, right at the end because the Barris thinks she takes out the fourth sister, escapes, flees to a planet where she becomes a healer. And now we don't know how much time has passed into this. And I know some folks in this sixth episode were like, well, why does she look so much older than the fourth sister? There's a little bit of in-universe explanation. And that is we find out she's a healer. Well, and she's been using the Force to heal folks. And we see, and I think it was brought up by Rey in Rise of Skywalker, which I know is going to make some people cringe, but stick with me, folks. Rey brings up in Rise of Skywalker that to heal someone through the Force, it takes stuff out of you. We saw that happen with Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, where he used so much of it that he literally fucking died. So presumably, now, if she were on Tatooine, I'd be like, all right, yeah, she's got 2 sons. It's the whole dry climate, blah, blah, blah. She's not on Tatooine. She's on some other planet. I think the reason she's so much older and looks so much older is because she's just been using the Force to heal that much. Yeah. So, but yeah, we do see the Force sister finally show up and go, oh, so it's you who's out there. And she stabs her, and that's where it gets left open-ended, where I wouldn't be surprised if we see Barris show up in the Mandalorian movie. Yeah, because Dave loves using his own little projects and characters from his shows, and well, he is writing and directing that whole thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is Dave Filoni all day.
Yeah.
So we do see him setting this up. That's why I say, like, for everybody,
it's left open-ended.
It's very left open-ended, which I think is great. And like I say, I think this one had more.
Yeah.
more to hook me as a fan.
Sure.
And that's what I say, because we didn't know a lot going on
No.
with Barris. So, like I say, the fact that we get some information here,
Yeah.
it does help.
Yeah.
It does build up, and it left the door wide open that we can go back and get more information.
Sure.
Where I think the Morgan story, I don't want to say is one and done, but
It's a nice backstory.
it's a backstory.
It's kind of like a comic limited run where it explains a character you saw in the movie. You know, I know they were supposed to. I know they did one for like how C-3PO got his red arm in Force Awakens. Like, not a whole big important thing, but it's there if you want to go read it.
Yeah.
You know, do you need to watch these first 3 episodes to understand the Morgan Elsbeth character? No, but it's there and it helps and it explains a few things.
No, it definitely does. But I mean, overall, I mean, I think it really hit the point it needed to.
Yeah.
It was very short to the point.
Yeah.
I'm curious about what we're going to do for a 3rd season.
I would say, and this is just kind of my guess, maybe Tales of the Rebellion. We've done Jedi, we've done Empire. Yeah, you could do Sith, but there's really not a whole lot to go with. You know, only two. You know, so unless you focus on Maul, you've already done Dooku. So unless you focus on something with Maul, ooh, what if they adapt parts of the Maul comic series? Ooh,
I'd be okay with that.
that'd be all right. But no, I mean, they could do a Rebellion. I mean, you've got enough time to play with. I mean, Christ, there's 20 years between the end of Revenge of the Sith and beginning of A New Hope, and then there's another like 5 years, 8 years, somewhere in there between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. So there's enough there. I mean, you could do an episode. You could do a couple episodes with like Wedge, Admiral Akbar, you know, the Wookiees or something. Like, there's enough there that you could do Tales of the Rebellion.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with that. Give me Tales of the Bounty Hunters.
Oh, that could work too.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah, you could do that.
You know, give some Cad Bane, give some other notable characters a little time. You know, make it all about the bad guys.
IG-88, Bosk.
Yeah, like I say, they have fans out there right now waiting on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think overall, like, the series really hit the points. It really gave us a nice little fun break. I mean, Pat, final thoughts on it?
Loved the series. I hope they do more. You know, it was a lot of fun, and I hope they branch out and they keep going with this. Do a Tales of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, the Separatists. You know, to have a whole episode focused on the droids and the nonsense they get into. That'd be fun.
No, absolutely. I really think that there's a lot to play around with this.
Tales of Jar Jar Binks.
You know what? I'd watch it, and then, you know, obviously what would happen at the end, because you would come across Cad Bane. Because of reasons. That's how I'm writing it.
Well, I mean, we know what happens to Jar Jar.
Yes, we do. But there's other stories to be written in a galaxy far, far away. That is why the series really works, and that's why, you know, like I say, we're being kind of short and brief with it, but it's
6 episodes, and they're all like less than 20 minutes.
Yeah, like I say, there's not a whole lot to it, but it's a fun watch for any Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And if you're new into the fandom for whatever reason, like, this is a nice introduction piece for a couple characters. So a lot to take home with it, and it's a short watch too.
Yeah.
So that's the big home run here.
Yep.
But that's our takes on Tales of the Empire, but we want to hear yours, ODPH Society. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. Tales of the Empire is currently airing on Disney+. It's a short 6 episodes, but it has a lot of information if you're into certain characters, so let's talk about it, shall we? But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a lot to talk about because, boy, has there been some news this week.
Yeah.
Holy cow. So stick with us, folks. We're going to jump through a bunch of these. Most of these are stuff that was announced at the upfronts the last couple days. Of course, for those of you who don't know, the upfronts are where the networks and the broadcasters, you know, Netflix, Amazon, like to present to the potential ad buyers, like, hey, here's what we're going to be showing in the next, you know, fall next year. So this is us trying to, and in this case, us is the networks or the broadcasters, trying to convince you, the companies that like to buy ad space, why you should put your ads on our stuff. And but for us fans, it's a good idea and good glimpse into what's going on and what's coming. First of which was announced that Nicolas Cage is going to play Spider-Man Noir again. This time in a live-action series
Really?
for MGM Plus and Amazon Prime Video.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So reading from an article on Variety.com, it says, quote, Nicolas Cage will once again play Spider-Man Noir, but this time in a live-action series. Cage is set to star in the live-action show Noir, which has been ordered to series at MGM Plus and Amazon Prime Video. The series will debut domestically on MGM's linear channel, followed by a global launch on Prime Video. Variety exclusively reported the series was in development in February 2023, though Cage was not attached at that time. The announcement was made ahead of Amazon's upfront presentation to advertisers in New York on Tuesday. Quote, expanding the Marvel Universe with Noir is a uniquely special opportunity, and we are honored to bring the series to our global Prime Video customers, said Vernon Sanders, head of the television for Amazon MGM Studios. The extremely talented Nicolas Cage is an ideal choice for our new superhero, and the accomplished producing team with Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, Amy Pascal, and the incredible team at Sony is dedicated to expanding this franchise in the most authentic way, close quote. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to watch. That's
Yeah,
it. Nick Cage doing Nick Cage things.
Then we got some news, or we got the first look trailer last week at The Boys, season 4 coming June 13th. Season looks amazing as ever.
Yes.
Cannot wait to see that. But then we also did get the announcement. The show's not even out for another month, folks. But it got renewed for season 5.
Yeah, I'm fearing this is going to be the final season.
Could be.
The Boys only had so much of a run in the comics.
Yeah.
So, sure, they could keep it going.
Sure.
I just think, unfortunately, it's going to be coming to an end. Like, they're getting to a point where you're going to see something happen.
Could be.
But the trailer looked great for
Trailer
season
looked
4.
amazing.
Yes.
Then we did get a trailer as well for season 2 of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, which is debuting on Amazon Prime August 29th. This looked awesome. Definitely if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings or have seen the original movies, there's some stuff in there you can pick up on what's going on and what's going to come. Hint, hint, the elves had the 3 rings. They were teasing the dwarves had their rings. Well, you know what comes next. Nothing good.
No.
But this looks awesome. Cannot wait for season 2. Should be a lot of fun.
Yes, absolutely. Like I say, if you're into this did look very, very fun.
Yeah. Then in a surprise announcement, the folks at Amazon did announce that they're doing a Tomb Raider series. Yes, based off the same video game of the same name.
Interesting.
And that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is writing the script.
Okay.
Yeah, so the article on HollywoodReporter.com reads, quote, the Tomb Raider TV series is moving forward at Amazon. A year and change after the Hollywood Reporter exclusively revealed Emmy winner Phoebe Waller-Bridge was writing and producing an adaptation of the popular video game turned action movie Tomb Raider, the retail giant / streamer has handed out a series order for the live action series. A worldwide casting search will begin soon for an actress to play Lara Croft in the series from Legendary Television. The surprise announcement was made Tuesday during Amazon's first trip to woo Madison Avenue ad buyers at TV's Upfront Week in New York. With the news arriving after another video game adaptation, Fallout has become a breakout hit for the service, close quote. So I'm interested to see this. I've heard good things about some of the movies they've done, but give it a TV series, that could be good.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a watch. I'm not as excited just because we've had so many movies over the past years.
That's true.
So for me, like I say, I'll check it out, but I'm not, my excitement level is
Sure.
just kind of like there.
Then we got for the stuff over from Max, HBO, Warner Brothers, all that. We did get a trailer for season 2 of House of the Dragon dropping June 16th. Trailer looks amazing.
Yes.
Holy hell, cannot wait for this to come out. Lots of Matt Smith action going on. It's definitely excitement for that.
Matt Smith is the MVP of that show. I will
Yeah.
not hear otherwise.
Yeah, he is. Then we also got a release window, I guess you could say, for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which is going to be the next film from James Gunn, Peter Safran. Reading from Deadline.com, it says, quote, put it your calendar to wear your tights and capes on June 26th, 2026, as Warner Brothers / DC Studios feature take of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow will hit theaters. There are no wide entries dated on Supergirl's weekend. The Craig Gillespie directed, Millie Alcock starring adaptation of Tom King's 2022 comic book series Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which Bilquis Evely illustrated, is the second feature title under the new DC Studios run by James Gunn and Peter Safran. After the former's Superman movie, which hits theaters in July 11th, 2025, Anna Noguera adapted the comic book for the big screen, close quote.
Interesting. Well, I should say we know this was coming.
Yep, they announced it, but we got a firm release date now.
Yeah, surprised they're doing it a year apart. But I'm not that mad about it.
Yeah.
I was going to say from the Superman movie, like they really want to space things out.
Yeah.
So smart on that play.
Then we got some announcements from the folks over at Marvel, a whole host of things.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot. I'm going to read some tidbits from an article on Deadline.com. We did find out that Daredevil Born Again is going to be coming to us in March 2025. 5.
Okay.
Also that it's going to be 9 episodes.
Oh, so they went down from the original plan there.
Yep. Also found out Ironheart is going to be coming out in 2025. They didn't say when, but they did say it is going to be in 2025.
Okay.
And we did also find out another name for the Agatha series because, folks, all the name changes. It was Agatha all along.
Yeah.
That's the name of the show. It's Agatha all along. And it's going to be dropping on September 18th. And then it's going to be a 2-episode premiere.
Of this year? Mm-hmm. So that's going to be leading the way. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I'm surprised the fact they're actually doing a series.
Yeah.
But, like I say, it'll be a fun one. But I'm lowering my bar just because I'm not sure exactly, like, longevity of the character.
But yeah, so super exciting stuff from the folks over at Marvel. Then you've got some Fantastic Four news. Of course, last week it was announced that John Malkovich is going to be joining the Fantastic Four. Yes, that John Malkovich. What he's playing, we have no idea.
I've already figured this out.
Okay.
He's Puppet Master.
Oh, okay. Could be. We did find out that Ralph Ineson is going to be in the movie as well. And, well, there's no secret of who he's playing. We know who he's playing.
Yeah,
some dude named Galactus.
That's a big role there.
Don't know if you've ever heard of that name. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't.
Well, like I say, one of the most feared villains in all of the Marvel universe. Obviously, connections with quite a few of the cosmic characters, and how they're going to set for Fantastic Four. I think he'll be in an appearance. I don't think he's going to be the main bad, though.
Could be. Then lastly, and certainly not leastly, for the Marvel casting announcements and Fantastic Four casting announcements, it was announced today that Natasha Lyonne is going to be joining the Fantastic Four cast. Who she's playing? Yeah, we don't know that one either.
I'm going to say this. If Malkovich is Puppet Master, she is Alicia Masters.
Okay.
That's why that's my unofficial ODPH guess. Like those, that's what those two are going to be playing.
Could be. Then from the folks over at Max, we did find out today, as we recorded, that there's going to be a Dune prequel. And this is a prequel to the Dune films from Denis Villeneuve. So this is going to be a series titled Dune Prophecy, and it is set 10,000 years before the ascension of Paul Atreides. So this looks like it's inspired by the novel Sisterhood of Dune, which was written by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. And reading from an article on Deadline.com, it says, quote, "It follows two Harkonnen sisters as they combat forces that threaten the future of humankind and establish the fabled sect that will become known as the Bene Gesserit. Sisterhood above all, Emily Watson's Valia Harkonnen says in the teaser. This looks interesting. I dug the first Dune movie, have yet to see the second one because life got in the way and life got busy. I know it's hitting Max soon, though, and I'll definitely check it out when it hits Max. I'm excited to check it out, though.
Yeah, no, it definitely exists.
I'm just curious what, if any, involvement Denis Villeneuve has, because he directed the first two movies.
Yeah.
And there was no mention of him even as like a producer for this series. So that's got me kind of wondering.
It definitely looks interesting. Like I say, it looks fun. It looks interesting. Like I say, I'm not the biggest Dune guy.
Sure.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
But it does look interesting, and I would imagine he's got some say in this.
Could be. Then, lastly, certainly not leastly, in some video game news, we got a first look reveal trailer for the next Assassin's Creed game, and that is Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is taking place in feudal Japan, releasing November 15th of this year, which super fucking quick. But then again, they announced this a while ago, so it's not super surprising. It looks good and it looks interesting, although admittedly, this is a game they should have put out 10 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Fans have wanted a feudal Japan Assassin's Creed game for literally 10 plus years. And in that time that they decided to not do it, a little game called Ghost of Tsushima came out. If you have a PlayStation, definitely check that out. If you have a PC, definitely check that out when it comes out on PC. I know there's this whole issue with PSN and everything, but you don't need it to play the single player. The PSN's for multiplayer. Just play the story. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We'll see how this goes, though. Ubisoft games released these days are very hit or miss.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
This one, though, it definitely piqued my interest.
Yeah.
So I say,
we'll see what happens.
I think it looked good.
Looks good.
All right. Very quickly, too, one little thing for comic news. We were talking about the X-Men, and obviously the fall of Krakoa era is taking place, obviously, from the ashes. A whole new line. Like I say, I get super amped up talking about this, so I need to pause for a sec. A whole new line is coming out from Marvel with the new X-Men creators taking hold and really pushing. And one of the books that definitely was catching everybody's attention and really got was Dazzler is getting her own series.
Really?
Yes.
Ah,
Now, it is 4 issues because, courtesy of the fine folks over at Marvel Comics, they did send us the press release. And this will be 4 issues, and it's debuting in September. And a good friend of the show, Jason Lowe, is going to be writing
oh, nice.
with Rafael Lareo on the artwork. And according to the description from the press release, quote, "Let the music play. With the fall of Kuroka, the X-Men's dream of coexistence has never felt more impossible. Luckily, Mutant Kind's very own pop princess has a song that will unite the masses and paint a big target on her back. An all-new Dazzler comic books limited series." So that will be coming out in September. Listen, I will say this. Not the biggest Dazzler fan in the world,
Okay.
but Jason Lowe is writing it. Jason Lowe convinced me about the Century series. He did.
This is true.
And I think the Century series is amazing. I will definitely at least pick this up for issue 1, and I will go from there with it.
Okay.
Just because there's so much X-Men stuff coming out,
There's a lot.
to put it mildly.
Uh-huh.
So
It's almost too much.
it's almost too much, but like I say, they are going back to that old style of like 10 plus books a month.
Yeah.
Because obviously the X-Men are now back in full swing as being the big line over at Marvel, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's nothing against the Avengers line, but this always happens from time to time. Like
Cyclical.
So right now the X-Men are on fire. They have a lot of stuff coming out. Obviously, coming with X-Men 700 that's dropping in June.
Wow.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. And even to top that too, it was announced that a certain mutant is going to be joining Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
So coming in August, Avengers 17.
Yep.
Storm is joining the team.
Hell yeah.
So this is going to be an exciting addition to the squad. Really, really curious how this is all going to play out, but this is all coming from the Ashes era.
Yep.
And listen, I think this is long overdue. Storm is Earth. They're touting Storm as Earth's mightiest mutant. I'm hard pressed to argue it.
I'm not going to argue with it.
Yeah, she's amazing. So to put her on the Avengers team, I think is going to be great. And Jed McKay's got a lot of stuff going on there. So definitely going to have that issue picked up, and we'll be talking about it here on the show coming up. Speaking of talking about comics, well, it's New Comic Book Day. Pat, what you picking up this week?
Couple things. First of which is from DC, and that is Action Comics issue number 1065 from Joshua Williamson. Description of this one reads, House of Brainiac Part 3. Superman and Lobo have their hands full with Brainiac's Lobo army, so it's up to Supergirl and Connor Kent to stop Brainiac himself. It's an impossible battle, but they are joined by some unexpected and deadly allies. Super excited to check this one out.
Yeah, no, the House of Brainiac storyline is absolutely insane.
Then from the folks over at Marvel, I read the title. I read who's written this one. I didn't even read the description. I went, yeah, you sold me on this one. Doom, issue number 1. Yeah, that Doom. Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom. Written by Jonathan Hickman.
Yes.
Description. If I haven't sold you already on this, let me read the description for this. Quote, in the near future, Doom alone must save the Marvel Universe. Legendary creators Jonathan Hickman and Sanford Green send Dr. Doom on a journey unlike any he has undertaken before. With Valeria Richards at his side, Doom goes on a quest to harness more power than any human has ever wielded before in order to try to stop Galactus from bringing about the death of the universe. Close quote. This is going to be nuts. It's Victor Von Doom. It's Valeria Richards. It's Galactus. Holy hell.
Yeah, this is going to be wild.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely nuts. Speaking of nuts, picking up also this week, What If? Venom issue number 4. The cover of this one, Venom Loki.
Yeah.
Do I really need to say more? It's from, from Jeremy Holt. And the description reads, the symbiote of mischief. As the Venom symbiote's tendrils have slithered through every corner of the Marvel Universe, they've now drawn the attention of Loki, who believes this incarnation of the Venom symbiote and the hosts it has chosen to bond to stand poised to become the most dangerous being in this or any reality. This is just going to be nuts. It's Venom. It's Loki. Good God.
Yeah.
Then from the folks over at Dynamite Comics, you've got Gargoyle's Quest, issue number 2 from Greg Weisman. This one reads, Damona's terrible quest for the 3 new keys to power is picking up speed, and as the Manhattan Clan sees her plan beginning to unfold, their efforts to keep her from succeeding become more and more desperate. Writer and Gargoyles creator Greg Weisman and artist Pasquale Quilano ratchet up the tension in this newest chapter of the ongoing Gargoyles saga, featuring high-octane covers by Clayton Crane, Jay Lee, and Drew Moss. So super excited to read this. Gargoyles, like I've said before, one of my favorite shows from when I was a kid. And the fact that you've got the series creator writing more stories in that universe got me super excited.
Yeah, I was going to say you've been talking about that for quite some time.
And then lastly, certainly not leastly, an issue I reviewed on Nerd Initiative this week, Star Wars Mace Windu, issue number 4 from Mark Bernardin. This one reads, Introducing the Shroud. Just as Mace and smuggler Azita Cruz arrive at her freighter, they're beset by Moro and Daya, and the leader of their cult, the Shroud. The Shroud is something that Mace Windu has never trained for and isn't prepared for, and might push a Jedi Knight to his breaking point. So this one's super interesting. It's the last issue of the 4-issue mini run. Definitely leave it on a cliffhanger ending, I will say that without going into spoilers. I could see them picking this back up at some point just because there's a moment in the end where it's like, okay, this might not be over. We could see this picked up at some point down the road. And to that, I certainly say I hope so, because this was a fun read. This is a fun run they did, and I hope they do more of this.
Yeah, I know. The series, like I say, a lot of people have been talking about that one. So
yeah.
Definitely fun stuff over at Marvel and Star Wars. For me, kicking off DC Comics this week, Batman and Robin number 9.
Hey.
So this has been one of my favorite series at DC, the father and son dynamic. It's a little more lighthearted than what you see in the normal DC Batman universe, but Joshua Williamson is doing an amazing job. Split art duties on this one, and the story is definitely picking up some steam. So we're getting some payoffs for some long themes that have been going on here. So really was on my radar to go check. So like I say, a lot of great stuff there. Over Comixology Originals, Hardstyle Juice number 2, Clay McCormick, Ricardo Lopez Ortiz. And this is the murder mystery going on and set in the world of pro wrestling. This is an absolute amazing series. Love this top to bottom. Like, writing's
Nice.
on point. Art is amazing. And it delves further into the lives of the Castro family and what Mona is doing now as she's on her personal tour of revenge. So cover is just, like I say, very classic, very simple, but it does the job. Amazing book right now on Comixology Originals. Over from our friends over at Image Comics and Skybound Entertainment, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero 306.
Ooh.
So this is picking up on the classic Larry Hama run. And listen, we're getting down to business. There's a lot of moving parts with this one. So if you are into what they're building here, because it's building for a big blowout. That's the easiest way to describe it. It's been doing for a while. This is going to be right up your alley. Also from Magma Comics, The Principles of Necromancy, number 2. So this is the book that is by the Hive Mind, Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, with Emon Winkle on the art. This one is definitely an intense read. It's a fun one. I know Matt from Hops Geeks News did the guest review of this on odphpodcast.com this week. And yeah, it lives up to the hype. It's absolutely insane. It's wild, but it does the job. So if you're looking for the little Pat, I don't know if you would pick it up because it's horror.
Probably not.
But it's definitely one for if you're into that genre, you'll definitely be happy. Over from Boom Studios, House of Slaughter number 23. So the Butcher's War is really picking up some steam. A lot of things are happening. We have 2 more issues left of that. And how Jace Boucher is going to be surviving is anybody's guess. But the houses are stacked against him, so to speak. So I'm not sure how he's going to pull this one off, but we'll have to wait and see how this plays. Over from Marvel Comics, Ultimate X-Men number 3.
Say less.
Yeah, this is the wild reimagining of the X-Men in the Ultimates universe by Peach Momoko.
Please be better than the last run of Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah, no, it's a different take top to bottom.
Okay.
It's a little more darker than you would expect.
Okay.
To put it mildly, like I say, it's something that really, the first issue for me was like almost like a mature reader's. Like it's that kind of like, because there's a lot of sensitive subjects that are going on with that.
Sure.
So, and I mean, they do a very tasteful job with it, but still, you can see how this is now evolving more, and you're seeing the formation of, what is going to be the incarnation of the X-Men, so to speak, with this series. So it's definitely a solid read, though, but it's not X-Men 97 by any stretch of the imagination. I want to just make sure I'm clear on that. And then last but certainly not least, Miss Marvel Mutant Menace, number 3. Try saying that 3 times fast. So this is the one Aman Vellani is co-writing with.
Oh, cool.
With Sabir Pirazada. I apologize for messing the name up. And this one, I mean, if you're a fan of Kamala Khan, like, this is a fun series. And obviously with Aman as a co-writer, you're getting a lot of the same vibes as you do from the TV show and the Marvels movie. So if you're looking for a fun read, this is one, obviously with Miss Marvel having a bigger presence in the X-Men universe now, because she's now, like I said, with her rebirth is a little more closer to the House of Xavier than the House of Black Bolt. There's a lot of stuff that is happening here. It's a fun read and ends on a very, very interesting note. So we'll just leave it at that. So many more reviews and so many more comics this week. Definitely check out nerdinitiative.com and the comics bullpen team bringing you another 20-plus reviews this week. Absolutely insane, but shout out to everybody. They're doing the hard work. And like we always say, make sure to go out to support your LCS wherever you're at. That being said, that's a lot of entertainment for this week. Anything else? ODPHpodcast.com. That's it for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J.
Netflix is coming out with a Terminator. I just found this out. Netflix is coming out with a Terminator anime. It's coming out August 29th. It's from the folks over at Production IG, who, of course, did Star Wars Visions. They're doing the work on Kaiju number 8, which is airing on Crunchyroll. Check that out. But holy shit, this looks amazing.
Yeah.
August 29th cannot come soon enough.
Yeah, Pat's showing me the pictures right now.
That looks nuts.
That looks insane. I'm definitely checking that out. So for Pad,
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. See you next time.